Tiffany Henyard, once hailed as a rising political star in Dalton, Illinois, has now become the center of a firestorm that's grabbing national headlines, and not in a good way. What began as a hopeful journey, filled with big dreams and bold plans for a struggling town, has now unraveled into a full-blown scandal involving financial mismanagement, personal enrichment, and federal investigations. Once admired by residents and city officials alike, Henyard is now under heavy fire amid growing evidence that taxpayer money was being used to fund her extravagant lifestyle. A mayor who once pledged to uplift her community now stands accused of betraying it. Her rise to power in Dalton was fast and dramatic. She became mayor after the unexpected death of her predecessor, Frank Zuccarelli. Even from the beginning, her appointment sparked skepticism, but she quickly drowned out the criticism with bold promises to revive the town. Under her energetic leadership, Dalton, once in financial distress, looked like it had a chance for real transformation. Her initiatives focused on veterans, seniors, and attracting new economic developments. By 2021, she had solidified her grip on power, winning the mayoral election with overwhelming support. But she didn't stop there. She took on the powerful role of supervisor of Thornton Township, effectively holding two major positions simultaneously. This move skyrocketed her salary to nearly $200,000 a year and placed enormous political influence in her hands. At first, it all looked like a success story, but behind the scenes, warning signs began to emerge. As Henyard's influence grew, so did the controversy surrounding her administration. Her leadership quickly gained a reputation for being opaque, and questions about financial practices started bubbling to the surface. Critics began accusing her of treating Dalton like her own private empire, redirecting public funds for personal benefit. Those accusations got louder as details of her spending began to surface. Public money, meant for infrastructure, essential services and community programs, was allegedly being spent on luxury vacations, high-end shopping, and even a $500,000 driveway built for her mother's house. Dalton, already battling a $3.5 million deficit, watched in disbelief as their mayor lived like a celebrity, while residents faced potholes, failing services, and financial instability. Outrage spread like wildfire across social media as residents vented their frustration, feeling betrayed and abandoned. But rather than pull back, Henyard only doubled down. She tightened her control, surrounded herself with loyalists, and reportedly silenced dissenters who dared question her authority. Then came the bombshell, a full-scale FBI investigation. Agents raided Henyard's home, uncovering stashes of hidden cash totaling millions of dollars, suggesting that public funds were being siphoned off for her personal gain. This shocking revelation was the final straw for many in Dalton who had already lost faith in their mayor. The investigation revealed even more disturbing facts. In just 5 months, she had spent $67,000 on travel alone, more than what most Dalton residents make in an entire year. What started as official business trips turned into luxury getaways complete with entourages, 5-star hotels, fine dining, and motorbike joyrides, all paid for by the people's money. But perhaps the most shameless move of all was using taxpayer dollars to plaster her face all over town on billboards. These weren't political campaign ads. They were vanity projects. While the town's roads crumbled and services went unfunded, Henyard promoted herself like a celebrity. Then there's the Tiffany Henyard Care Foundation, a breast cancer charity she founded. What was supposed to be a noble cause was soon exposed as just another funnel for her indulgences. Investigators say donations were used for personal luxury, including designer clothes and vacations. Reports even link the charity's funds to the infamous $500,000 driveway at her mother's house. As these revelations exploded, Dalton residents were furious. The mayor was allegedly using public funds not just for personal travel, but to produce promotional merchandise, T-shirts, hoodies, and other branded items, which she sold, keeping the profits for herself. Even when confronted, Henyard gave no real answers. Her refusal to explain only deepened suspicions, making it clear to many that she was exploiting her power for personal benefit. Meanwhile, the town itself was falling apart. City services were crumbling, potholes remained unfilled, and debt continued to balloon. The very person elected to turn things around had instead dragged Dalton deeper into chaos. At the center of it all lies a devastating betrayal of public trust. Critics say Henyard's story is a classic tale of power gone unchecked, a political figure who lost sight of the people she was elected to serve. As her luxury spending became public, it painted a haunting contrast to the town's deteriorating condition. The FBI probe continues to dig deeper, and rumors swirl that Henyard's closest allies are now turning on her, cooperating with authorities to avoid prosecution themselves. Despite all this, Henyard remains defiant. She insists the allegations are politically motivated and continues posting cryptic, defiant messages on social media. But her attempts to rally support have largely fallen flat. Calls for her resignation grow louder with each passing day. Her political career, once so full of promise, now lies in ruins, buried under the weight of scandals, lawsuits, and financial disasters. What could have been a legacy of progress and leadership is now a cautionary tale of greed, power, and broken promises. Henyard's downfall is more than just personal. It's a warning of what happens when power is left unchecked and accountability disappears. The people of Dalton are left picking up the pieces, wondering just how deep the damage runs. As the investigation continues, it seems less and less likely that Henyard will hold onto her office. Her credibility has been shattered. Her name is now synonymous with scandal, not success. The story of Tiffany Henyard is no longer about hope or transformation. It's about lost opportunities, community betrayal, and the dire consequences of political corruption. It stands as a stark reminder of why transparency, integrity, and accountability are non-negotiable in public service. Henyard's reign may soon come to an end, but for the people of Dalton, the struggle to recover from her actions is just beginning. And now, her inner circle is reportedly turning on her. Rumors are swirling that several close associates, including key officials, are now cooperating with investigators. Despite Henyard's attempts to maintain control, the evidence against her keeps piling up, and her credibility continues to unravel with each new revelation. Once hailed as a bold, transformative leader, Henyard's political legacy is collapsing under the weight of scandal. What many originally saw as fearless leadership has now been exposed as a story of unchecked ambition, reckless financial behavior, and deep-seated corruption. Even as public outrage grows and the facts become harder to deny, Henyard has refused to take accountability. She's framed the backlash as nothing more than the price of being in the public eye. But her actions paint a much darker picture, one where ego and power take precedence over public service. The federal investigation into her spending and conduct is ongoing, and the outcome remains uncertain. But with every passing day, it's looking less likely she'll be able to salvage any part of her reputation. Her refusal to acknowledge the growing calls for resignation has only widened the gap between her and the people she was elected to serve. Dalton is now in crisis. The town is financially wrecked, and residents are demanding accountability and a path forward. Henyard's time in office has become a case study in how quickly unchecked power can spiral into chaos, turning hope into betrayal and a once promising future into a nightmare of corruption and dysfunction. The town's financial health is in tatters. Dalton, once optimistic about its future, now finds itself clawing back from the brink, facing not only economic ruin, but a deep erosion of trust in local government. Henyard's administration will be remembered not for revitalization or progress, but for broken promises, inflated egos, and unethical behavior. Her name is now tied to financial mismanagement and a total disregard for the well-being of the people she swore to serve. And while investigations are still underway, one thing is already crystal clear. The damage done to Dalton won't be undone overnight. Long after Tiffany Henyard fades from the political spotlight, her scandal-plagued administration will cast a long shadow over the town she left behind. What began as a hopeful story has now become a cautionary tale. One of ambition, run wild, of power misused, and of a community left picking up the pieces. Lavish trips, personal security expenses, public funds redirected for private gain. These are just a few hallmarks of Henyard's time in office. Her administration has burned through public money at an alarming rate, while Dalton's infrastructure and essential services have crumbled. Residents are struggling. The town's financial woes are no longer just numbers on a spreadsheet. They're visible in the streets, in the parks, and in the schools. Meanwhile, Henyard's critics argue that she sees Dalton not as a community to uplift, but as a domain to control. Workers were allegedly coerced into spying on political opponents. Business owners who refused her demands were reportedly targeted. Dissent wasn't just discouraged, it was punished. This wasn't leadership. This was intimidation. And all the while, Henyard deflected. She dismissed criticism as politically motivated and framed herself as the victim of targeted attacks. She claimed it was about her gender, but many saw those defenses for what they were: hollow, self-serving, and disconnected from the reality facing Dalton's citizens. The deeper the investigations go, the darker the story becomes. The FBI is now involved, and what they've uncovered has shocked even Henyard's harshest critics. A search of her home reportedly turned up large sums of hidden cash. Financial records are being dissected. Her controversial charity is under the microscope. Wire fraud and embezzlement charges could be looming. And now, former top ally Keith Freeman, once her right-hand man, is facing his own legal troubles. He's been charged with bankruptcy fraud and is rumored to be cooperating with the feds. If that's true, the fallout could be catastrophic for Henyard. The walls are closing in. At the same time, state funds have been frozen, leaving Dalton scrambling to stay afloat. Street repairs? Unpaid. Tree trimming? Halted. The town hasn't had an annual audit since 2021. The financial picture is grim, and getting worse by the day. Residents are rightfully furious. Many believe this all could have been avoided if Henyard had been held accountable earlier. But her pattern of retaliation and denial only accelerated the decline. Take the case of Boeing Thrash, a former employee of Thornton Township. He claims he was fired for refusing to replace an attorney with someone of Henyard's choosing, a clear example of the kind of political bullying that became routine under her watch. Other reports are even more disturbing. Critics claim she used police officers as enforcers, sending them to the homes of those who spoke out against her. It created an atmosphere of fear, one where the police weren't protecting residents, but protecting Henyard. It's a damning legacy. And as Keith Freeman potentially flips on his former boss, the legal pressure is rising fast. Investigators are now diving into every aspect of her administration, from shady contracts to nonprofit fund misuse to inflated salaries and vendetta-driven terminations. Dalton is left in the wreckage. The town's future hangs in the balance, and its residents are demanding change. There's a growing movement calling for a clean sweep of leadership, an overhaul that prioritizes transparency, accountability, and genuine service over ego and ambition. Henyard's leadership has brought Dalton to the brink, and now the town must rebuild, not just its finances, but the public trust that her administration destroyed. It won't be easy, it won't be fast, but it's necessary. The people of Dalton deserve better. They deserve a leader who puts the community first. Someone who sees public office not as a throne, but as a responsibility. As the investigations continue, it's clear that Tiffany Henyard's time in power will be remembered not for her vision, but for her downfall. A scandal that started with whispers is now a national spectacle. And while she continues to deny, deflect, and downplay, the facts keep coming. The residents of Dalton aren't fooled anymore. Now, They're waiting. Not just for justice, but for a chance to finally turn the page.